Alright, so what we have here today is this little drone right here. It needs a brain, and we're going to give it one. We have the Speedy Bee F7 flight controller and the Speedy Bee 35 amp. This is running BL S. Probably going to run Blue Jay firmware on this, 4-in-1 mini. We're going to be placing that thing. That's Catalyst Machine Works, America. So before we even get started, I'm gonna put this flight controller right here in a Betaflight, take a look at it, make sure it's gonna act right. This looks like a really well made flight controller. It's got the USB-C port. And this is something right here that I'm really interested in, is this Bluetooth module. I'm really wanting to try out, just messing with the Speedy Bee app and seeing how that's gonna play out. I think this is going to be a really great flight controller. Seems like a pretty solid one. Alright, so here we are in the Betaflight configurator 10.8.0, and I'm going to go ahead and plug in this flight controller and just take a quick look at it and make sure that everything is going to connect up and operate really well. Let's make sure the gyro is doing what it's supposed to do before I even solder anything to this flight controller. And it's always good practice before you solder anything to a flight controller that you do this little check. That way, if there's any issues, you send it back. And it powered on just nice. You see we got a notification that it's setting it up. Setting up a virtual COM port. See, I have a blue flashing LED and a solid red LED on the flight controller, so I believe it's everything's going fine. It says device is ready. We're looking for COM 4. Good deal. Okay, so it's not showing up here. Let me try disconnecting and reconnecting, see what that does. Ah, there we go. It automatically connected. Good deal. Alrighty. So this is just a little warning letting me know that, hey, nothing's been set up. The accelerometer isn't calibrated. And what the accelerometer has to do with is pretty much, it has to do with your flight controller being level. So I can see that the flight controller is operating fine. And when you look at the flight controller, there'll be a little arrow on your flight controller, and it looks like it's reacting just like it should. So it looks like we've got a good flight controller. Now if you wanted to go ahead and do a accelerometer calibration, you could try to totally level out your flight controller. This is going to be possible for me at the moment, and that's all that Betaflight's asking you to do, is go ahead and calibrate the accelerometer. See, it levels itself out. And that has to do with your flight modes. So let's say whenever you set up your flight modes in your flight controller and you want it to auto level, if you don't have your accelerometer calibrated and the flight controller thinks that this is level, whenever you go to take off outside, it'll just kind of drift away to the left or the right, whichever way the flight controller believes that level is. So that's to kind of help you keep from drifting away. Most of the time I fly in manual mode. So, all right. So what I'm wanting to do is I kind of want to check and see. I can see the firmware version that is running 4.2.11, and I want to check to see if there's any newer firmware. So let's have a look at it real quick. So let me reconnect. We'll double check. So right here's the target firmware I'm looking for, Speedy B F7 Mini. So let's go to update firmware. We can see where I updated another flight controller, but we're looking for the Speedy B F7 Mini. And right there's our target. So remember I had 4.2.11 and here is 4.3.2. So we're going to load firmware online. And this is telling us what it fixed, refractor USB serial. It's always good to read all this stuff right here. That way you kind of know what you're doing and what's being changed or whatnot. If you already have a flight controller that's already programmed, you know, your UARTs and all that stuff set up, you can go into your command line interface and save all that stuff. That's a topic for another video. And Joshua Bardwell, he has plenty of explanations on how to do all that. So let's go ahead and flash this firmware to this flight controller. Programming successful. Awesome. So let's go back and reconnect to the board. Custom defaults for this board available. Normally your board will not work properly unless custom defaults are applied. Do you want to apply? Sure, why not? Okay, so now we got some more problems with my configuration. There's no motor output protocol selected, and the accelerometer is enabled but is not calibrated. Closed. Again, like I said, if you want to have a angle flight mode where it kind of auto levels itself, you want to get your flight controller as level as possible and recalibrate your accelerometer. See how it just kind of picked it up a little bit, leveled it up. And here are the COM ports. So UART1 is set to serial RX and UART6 is a MSP port here. Okay, so interesting. And what it was asking about as far as a motor protocol, we can go into motors here. You see it says ESC motor protocol, and I'm just going to go D-Shot 300. I'll enable bidirectional D-Shot. I'm going to agree to all this. I'm going to save and reboot. And we'll just go back and double check and make sure everything's happy. Of course it's showing errors. Bidirectional D-Shot will work. You know, we can set the motor direction. It says motor direction is reversed. So right there, that's the way I run my props, reversed. The idea is it pushes itself out of trees instead of pulling itself in. We'll save and reboot that. You can enable expert mode up here if you'd like. Get a little bit more stuff to look at here. You have the command line interface. I believe this flight controller. Yeah, it has the black box log built into it. All your sensors. We haven't got none of this set up yet. Go into the receiver tab. I'm going to be running a serial receiver protocol. I'm going to be running Crossfire. And we'll save and reboot. And if you remember in the configuration tab or the ports tab, when I looked at it, serial RX is UART1. So that's going to be the UART that I solder to on my flight controller. I'm going to go ahead and disconnect this. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So this flight controller, I know it's working now. So that's pretty much it. She's set up and ready to go. And I'll be going ahead and getting this set up. And if you can see right here, if I get the lighting right. So you see where it says R1 and T1, ground, 5 volts. It's all right here. T1, R1, ground, 5 volts. That's what I'm going to be putting my receiver on. Crossfire, seeing as how UART 1 is enabled for serial RX, and I have plenty of other UARTs available for anything else, grounds, buzzards. I have UARTs over here that's available for the camera, the video transmitter, TX3. So yeah, I hope you liked the video. Please hit the like and subscribe button. Subscribing goes a long way for the channel. Thanks for watching.